I mean, what is going on this offseason? So if you guys are living under a rock or don't have Twitter in 2022, you missed one of the biggest trades in the last 20 years. Last night, the Florida Panthers sent Jonathan Huberdeau, Mackenzie Weegar, Cole Schwinn, and a 2025 first-round pick for Matthew Kachuk of the Calgary Flames. Now, there is a ton about this deal that has to be dissected because at face value, it looks like an absolute fleece job by the Calgary Flames. And you got to give Treliving credit. Regardless of how the contract ramifications that we'll discuss in just a little bit, a week ago they lost Johnny Gaudreau for nothing, and then Matthew Kachuk got on the horn and said, hey, I don't want to be here anymore. That is not a position of power. And somehow he went out and turned that into one of the best wingers in the NHL, a phenomenal top pairing defenseman, and a first-round pick. Regardless of what we're going to talk about, and like I said, in terms of the contracts, that's incredible management. On the other side, the Florida Panthers looked like a powerhouse before they ran into the Tampa Bay Lightning. I have a theory that it might be a coaching issue. Remember, they did lose Quenneville throughout the year, and Burnett did not look like he had a strong grip on the team. That being said, they just lost their first-line winger and a first-pairing defenseman. But let's break down the deal. All right, so let's break down the two big names in this deal, Kachuk and Huberdeau. Now, both of them had incredible years. Jonathan Huberdeau just had 115 points and was a Hart Trophy candidate for MVP of the league. Matthew Kachuk just had 104 points, and that was obviously a huge career best. He's only 24 years of age, and there's obviously room for growth, but I think if we go and take a look at the last 3 years prior to this huge breakout season, we can get a little bit more of a prediction to how each player could expect to play. Now, over the last 3 seasons, Jonathan Huberdeau has really become one of the best players in the league offensively. He's got 231 points in 206 games, good for 1.12 points per game, which over the course of an 82-game season, that's about 91. That is one of the best players in the league, and that makes a lot of sense because he has been one. Now, Matthew Kachuk is obviously a little bit younger, but if you take out this 104 outlier-looking season, he's got 181 points in 205 games, good for 0.88 points per game, which over the course of a full season would be about 72 points. And I think that would be closer to where we expect. But regardless, he's still going to be an incredible player. I think the thing that really elevates him in this deal is the fact that he plays so hard. That is, he is essentially an elite Tom Wilson. Sorry, Washington Capitals fans. And I think that that is a premier power forward in the NHL. So now let's take a look at the Calgary Flames projected cap hit, and they've got $9.3 million right now, but I believe that is because Sean Monahan is still on IR here, and so if that is a contract that's added in, they're at about $3 million in cap space, and they have still a very, very good team. Huberdeau, however, at $5.9 million is not going to play for that next season. I think the thing that is going to make or break this deal is what Calgary does with Huberdeau as well as Mackenzie Weegar, because they are both unrestricted free agents, and that is going to determine who wins this deal. Because if they sign both, and you would have to think Jonathan Huberdeau is probably going to get about $10 million, so that's about another $4 million added to the cap. Mackenzie Weegar is probably going to, if he has anything like his prior years in terms of play, he's probably going to be about an $8 to $9 million defenseman. Those are massive cap hits, and I think this is the real reason why Florida made this deal. Florida, on the other hand, they're in some cap problems. Right now, they're over the cap by about $3.5 million, but you do see the extension for Matthew Kachuk, $9.5 million per until the end of the 2029-30 season. He is locked up and he is going to be playing through his prime with Alexander Barkov. But if you go down, I think defense is where the Panthers were extremely underrated and very strong last year. They had Aaron Ekblad and Mackenzie Weegar, and like I said, Weegar became one of the best transitional defensemen in the league. However, he did not handle the spotlight always as effective as he normally did throughout the regular season. But regardless, he is still one of the top defensemen in the league. When you take a look at their decor now, behind Aaron Ekblad, they've got Brandon Montour, Gustav Forsling, Gudis, and then some question marks. So they are going to have to do some work. I think the real issue here, and if Panther fans are still wondering why this deal got done, it's Sergei Bobrovsky making $10 million for the next 4 years. That is the real reason why Huberdeau and Weegar were moved out, because I feel like once their contracts came up next year, there was no way with Bobrovsky's contract that they were going to be able to afford them. Not to mention, Spencer Knight is an RFA next season. He is going to get a significant raise. The other thing we have to look at here is that The Florida Panthers are going for it. They don't draft in the first round for the next 3 seasons. So that's what happens when you go for it, which I totally understand. They have been bottom dweller teams for the majority of my life, and they went from being the best team in the league last year, essentially. But let's take a look at what EA has to say, as here's the deal. And again, this reminds me of like one of the first seasons I was a Sharks fan, when Joe Thornton was traded from the Boston Bruins after being a 100-point player, one of the best young players in the NHL, and he got traded for Marco Sturm, Brad Stewart, and Wayne Primo. None of them were on the level of Huberdeau and Weegar, but that's what happens in a cap world. This is a huge risk-it deal for everyone involved, because if Kachuk goes to the Panthers and he puts up 60 to 70 points, he lost a franchise player in Huberdeau and a top-pairing defenseman, and those don't come around very often. However, for Calgary, if they can't sign Huberdeau or Weegar and they trade them for pennies on the dollar next offseason, I mean, you made the best of a bad situation. Kachuk pushed everyone up against a wall with that trade demand, and I'm not going to lie, still blows me away that Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar will be playing for the Calgary Flames. But here we go. I want your comments down below, guys. If you're a Panthers fan, Flames fan, let me know how you're feeling. Even just NHL fans, let me know your thoughts on the trade, because once you break it down and you see the cap implications, it makes a lot more sense. But here we go. Would EA accept this deal? Yeah, I feel almost guilty saying yes, as I figure Calgary is making out like gangbusters here compared to you. And at face value, I gotta agree. But guys, like I said, let me know what you think in the comments section down below. This offseason has been bananas, and I can't wait for October. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.